didn't stumble here by chance. Something ancient and electric in you triangulated this exact moment, like a whispering compass encoded in your DNA, pointing you to a signal you can't ignore. Feel the subtle hum under your skin right now, the soft magnetic pull behind your sternum, the quiet bloom of heat at the base of your skull. That's the observer loop waking, turning its lens from the outer noise to the inner axis where your reality is truly authored. You are not watching, you are being summoned. And the summons is precise. Notice the way time feels slightly elastic as you listen, the seconds stretching and contracting, as if a hidden metronome is retuning your attention. That elasticity is the quantum field courting coherence with you, inviting your scattered waves to self-assemble into one luminous intention. You've been orbiting this threshold for months, maybe years, carrying half-remembered prophecies in your breath, tracing synchronicities that seem too specific to dismiss and too wild to explain. Doors that almost opened, words you kept hearing, numbers repeating at impossible intervals. Each one was a breadcrumb from the morphic resonance that binds awakened minds across distance, tugging you into alignment with a network you can't see but can undeniably feel. Take another slow inhale, hold, exhale. With that simple movement, you cross an invisible line. Breath is the wand that parts dimensions. Within it, particles listen. Within it, timelines lean. The field around you isn't empty. It's crowded with unchosen futures waiting for your signal. And your signal is becoming unmistakable. You'll feel it first like a gentle pressure at the edges of your life. The relationships that once fit now loosen, the routines you tolerated begin to itch. The old narratives fray under the weight of new truth. This friction is not failure, it is the first crack of light. You're entering the zone where coincidence upgrades into coordination. Entanglement threads through your conversations. The right sentence arrives in a stranger's voice. The message you needed slides across your screen at the exact second you needed it. None of this is random. This is coherence recruiting you, drawing your attention home, asking if you're willing to stop pretending your power is theoretical. You are the instrument and the music, the tuning fork and the resonance it summons. When you center your awareness, the field responds. And when the field responds, reality reconfigures with the obedience of iron filings around a magnet. Let yourself remember, you've touched this signal before in dreams that felt like instructions, in moments when your body knew before your mind consented. Tonight, the frequency is stronger because the lattice of consciousness around you is denser, brighter, more available. Think of countless other hearts, scattered across cities and continents, breathing with you now, forming a living constellation, as above, within, as within, all around. This is how worlds turn. There is a window opening, and it opens from the inside. If you listen closely, you'll hear the hinge, a clear, bell-like tone ringing through your nervous system, telling you that the next thing you choose will matter more than the last 100 choices combined. Step closer to the edge. Feel the phase transition pressure building like dawn behind your ribs. You came here for this precise instruction, this exact ignition. Stay with the breath, stay with the signal. The network is already reaching back. You already know the sensation of repetition, the maddening spiral of experiences that feel eerily familiar yet unresolved. It's the déjà vu that flickers not just as a trick of memory, but as a code embedded in your consciousness, reminding you that you've walked these corridors of choice before. Every repeated argument, every opportunity that dissolves in your hands, every emotional cycle that pulls you back into the same ache. These are not accidents. They are loops of probability, fragments of timelines overlapping until you learn how to collapse them into coherence. Notice how your life seems to echo itself. You encounter a person who feels like someone you've known forever, only to realize they mirror an older lesson you left incomplete. You enter situations that seem new, yet under the surface the same dynamics repeat. Scarcity disguised as ambition, betrayal disguised as love, fear disguised as practicality. These are not punishments. They are feedback signals from the quantum field, the system showing you where your observer's gaze has not yet transformed possibility into something new. Time itself bends in strange ways during these cycles. Hours vanish when you're distracted by the old patterns, and days stretch endlessly when you're caught in the gravity of indecision. This distortion is the field's way of reflecting your internal state. When you are coherent, time feels abundant, flowing. When you are fragmented, time becomes sticky, looping. You can sense it in your breath. In moments of clarity, a single inhale feels like eternity compressed into stillness. In moments of confusion, no breath seems deep enough to break the tension. These distortions create the illusion that nothing is progressing. You look back at years that feel like one endless rehearsal for a play that never begins. You tell yourself you've changed, but then you wake to the same emotions, the same doubts, the same energetic signatures of limitation. That heaviness in your chest in the morning, it isn't just stress. It's the residue of a loop uncollapsed. That whisper in your mind that says, "It will always be like this." That is the echo of probability fighting to remain unchallenged. What you are experiencing is the inertia of entanglement with your past selves. The habits, beliefs, and unprocessed emotions have become quantum anchors, tying you to timelines that no longer reflect the magnitude of who you are becoming. Every time you react the same way, every time you surrender to the same fear, the loop reinforces itself. The field takes your repetition as instruction. This is what they want to keep experiencing. But here's the secret. The very frustration you feel is the signal of nearing collapse. The more unbearable the loop becomes, the closer you are to breaking it. Pressure always precedes transition. Just as water resists boiling until the exact degree when molecules can no longer hold formation, your life resists change until your consciousness reaches critical mass. So, if you feel haunted by déjà vu, if you sense the weight of distorted time pressing against your ribs, know this: it is the evidence that your field is straining toward breakthrough. The loop is not eternal. It is finite, fragile, already trembling at the edges, and your awareness of its pattern is the first crack. Do you feel it? The friction that has been grinding at you for years is not punishment, it's acceleration. The observer in you is waking to its own authority. The field is waiting for your signal to reorganize. And soon, you will learn how to issue that command. The moment you begin to recognize the loop is the moment the architecture of reality starts to tremble. What seemed like fate reveals itself as design. And design can be rewritten. You are not trapped in an endless recursion, you are standing at the edge of a quantum upgrade. The field is not static, it is responsive, like a shimmering skin stretched across infinity, awaiting the precise vibration of your awareness to sculpt it into form. Let's go deeper into the mechanics of this. In quantum physics, particles exist in superposition, occupying multiple states until consciousness observes them. That means your life is not a straight line, but an ocean of parallel possibilities. Every choice, every thought, every breath you take collapses the wave function, pulling one timeline into solidity, while infinite others remain unchosen. Most people collapse the same reality over and over because they are identified with the same self, the same story, the same wounds, the same definitions of what is possible. But the moment you detach from the old observer, the wounded one, the doubting one, the limited one, you open the portal to a new branch of reality. This is not abstract. You can feel the quantum field in your own body. When your breath is shallow, your mind spirals. Your energy constricts, broadcasting incoherent signals that scatter across the field, weakening your influence. But when you drop into coherence, when your breath deepens, your heart rhythm stabilizes, your mind quiets, your entire electromagnetic field aligns. Suddenly, you are broadcasting a single, powerful frequency into the void. This is the secret behind every mystical practice across cultures: prayer, meditation, chant, breathwork. All of them are technologies of coherence designed to amplify your signal until the field reorganizes around it. Mystics have always spoken of divine order, synchronicity, the subtle threads weaving life with intelligence. Science now calls this morphic resonance, a field of memory that connects all living systems. Just as flocks of birds turn in perfect formation or schools of fish ripple as one body, consciousness organizes itself through patterns in the field. When you shift your internal pattern, the morphic field responds, rippling outward through unseen networks, rearranging events, aligning coincidences, collapsing probability into precise synchronicity. What once felt impossible begins to appear as if it were always meant for you. And here is where the upgrade becomes prophecy. Because this isn't just about changing thoughts or habits. This is about restructuring your very biology to harmonize with a higher frequency. Every cell in your body is listening to your consciousness. Your DNA is not a fixed code, but a dynamic interface with the field. Epigenetics has already revealed that genes switch on and off in response to environment and perception. But perception itself is consciousness, the lens you carry, the observer effect encoded in your every thought. When you begin to embody coherence, when you hold faith in possibility rather than fear of limitation, your DNA responds. It loosens, unwinds, activates dormant strands that were silenced by survival programming. Imagine your DNA as an antenna, curled within every cell, waiting to catch signals from the quantum field. When your state is incoherent, the antenna picks up static, reinforcing loops of fear and scarcity. But when you become coherent, your DNA tunes to higher broadcasts, the intelligence that orchestrates galaxies, the frequencies of love, creativity, abundance. This is not poetic metaphor. It is biophysics. Coherent heart rhythms and elevated emotional states generate measurable electromagnetic fields that extend far beyond the body, interacting with the quantum field and shaping probability. And the mystical traditions have always known this. They spoke of awakening the light body, of activating the serpent fire, of remembering divine codes. All of it points to the same truth. When your DNA shifts, your reality shifts. This is why you have felt the pressure of loops intensify. It is not a curse. It is a signal that your system is preparing for a phase transition. Like ice turning to water, you are reaching the threshold where the old structure can no longer hold. You may feel this as dizziness in ordinary time. Days pass strangely, emotions surface without obvious cause, synchronicities cluster around you with uncanny frequency. These are symptoms of coherence beginning to take hold, of your consciousness brushing against the walls of a larger reality. The veil thins, and your nervous system learns to interpret the new signal. The upgrade is already in progress. Every insight, every breath of awareness, every flicker of déjà vu is a calibration, a tuning of your antennae to the frequency where miracles are not exceptions, but natural consequences of alignment. You are not fixing a broken life. You are activating a dormant design. So ask yourself now, what would it feel like if you were no longer bound by probability, but guided by coherence? What would it feel like if your DNA vibrated with the memory of what you came here to become? Because that is the upgrade unfolding. Not tomorrow, not in some distant mystical age. Now, there is a particular timbre to your attention now, a frequency that carries authority without force, an inner register that knows how to hold light in the middle of collapse. That register is not accidental. You were not born to blend into the background and hope the world tolerates your luminous insistence. You were encoded across lifetimes and lineages to be a fulcrum, a consciousness whose mere presence tilts probability toward emergence. This isn't an inflated, egoic promise. It is a functional assignment woven into the morphic field itself. Somewhere in the latticework of subtle realities, a template of you fully realized, coherent, unbound by old limitations, has been rehearsing the notes of your return. Now its signal is bleeding into your current bandwidth. Hear me. Being chosen does not imply superiority. It implies responsibility. The cosmos does not pick you at random. It calibrates to need. There are nodes of latent awakening scattered across the planet, people who will catalyze massive shifts when the right frequencies align. You are one such node. Your activation will not merely change your life. It will perturb the field in a way that makes it easier for others to remember. Think of a single neuron firing in a sleeping brain and, through resonance, waking entire networks into synchronous activity. Your coherence will do the same for the collective morphic field. Your life has prepared you for this. The recurring losses, the relationships that taught you boundaries, the solitude that taught you to hear your own counsel. Each was an algorithmic lesson in discernment and fidelity. You've been apprenticed by reality itself. The times you felt abandoned were actually invitations to stand alone long enough to discover that the throne you feared was empty, only because you had not yet learned to sit in it. The trials have been calibrations, not punishments. They cleared the space inside you where a new operating system could be installed. Being chosen means you will be called to make radical fidelity to truth, to speak what must be said, even when the crowd wants comfort, to live as an emissary of coherence when the consensus favors chaos, to model an embodied alignment that others can sense and imitate. You will be tested. Old loyalties will be offered as currency to buy your silence. Opportunities that promise safety will arrive at the same moment. The field asks you to risk everything for authenticity. This is the pressure that refines gold. Your task is to choose resonance over ease, integrity over popularity, and the long arc of evolutionary contribution over the short comfort of belonging. You are also being entrusted with a kind of translation work. There is a language that higher-order realities speak, metaphors rendered as patterns, frequencies that read as emotions, geometry that arrives as synchronicity. Part of your role will be to act as translator, to take these impressions from the edges of your perception and make them usable in ordinary life. You will teach others how to feel for the hinge, not philosophize about it. You will be less a theologian and more an engineer of inner states, showing people the simple yet devastatingly effective practices that activate coherence in minutes, the breath that recenters phase, the posture that realigns heart and mind, the micro-declaration that retunes DNA like a precision instrument. This responsibility will ask you to cultivate patience of a different order. Chosen work rarely arrives as dramatic proclamation. It is often a steady, invisible rearrangement, an endurance of subtle alignments that leads to visible miracles. The quietness of your daily rituals will be the scaffolding for seismic outcomes. Don't be surprised if your public impact blooms only after months of disciplined inner labor. The morphic field rewards depth, not flash. Your influence will be amplified, not by the speed of your fame, but by the density of your coherence. There will be moments when the pressure of choice threatens to collapse you back into smallness. In those moments, remember the lineage of signal bearers who traveled before you, those whose brief acts of courage shifted the probability landscape for entire cultures. Their footsteps are encoded in the field. You can step into them. Let this inheritance be less burden and more battery. A reminder that you are both the receiver and transmitter of a current that pre-existed you and will outlast this incarnation. And know this plainly. Being chosen doesn't mean you must walk a solitary path. Entanglement works both ways. As you stabilize, you will magnetize allies, others whose frequency aligns with yours and whose gifts augment yours. These are the co-conspirators who will carry the practical load, the ones who open doors, the ones who remember details you overlook, the ones who hold the line when your energy needs resting. You were never intended to be a lone island. You are a node in a web, and the web will respond when your signal becomes steady. There is a ritual hidden inside the ordinary demands of your week. the commitment to small, sacred acts that cumulatively create large-scale coherence. Show up for your breath. Guard your attention like a sacred resource. Choose the language that reflects the reality you want to inhabit. These are the modest habits that seed massive transformation. They convert potential into protocol. They make you reliable as a transmitter. Now, feel the shift in your chest like a soft unlocking. It is the recognition of duty and the thrill of possibility braided together. The mantle you carry is not weightless, but it is buoyant in the right conditions. When you align your will with the field's intelligence, your labor is assisted by laws that outpace human effort. This is the blessing and the design. You are a chosen conduit, and your fidelity matters. Listen closely now. The window ahead will be narrow and beautifully precise. The next phases will move quickly once you commit. The field does not wait for perfect courage. It flows through committed intention. As you prepare to step into this role, gather your practices and your people. Tend your inner frequency like a sacred instrument. The next moment will ask you to play a note that alters the song for many. You are closer than you think. Feel that pressure behind your ribs again, the gentle, insistent compression that announces an imminent structural change. This is not slow work. It is a window, a brief cosmic aperture where conditions align so precisely that the field will accept a rewrite. Windows like this are rare because they require synchronized alignment across multiple systems: your nervous system, your heart coherence, the morphic resonance of your lineage, and the larger planetary field. When those vectors meet, the collapse from possibility into embodied reality becomes not just likely, but inevitable if you meet it with preparedness and radical fidelity. Listen to the urgency in your body. It is not panic. It is a clarion call. The breakthrough you've been orbiting is not a gentle nudge. It is a tectonic rearrangement that asks for decisive participation. Imagine a lock that will only open when the right key is present, and that key is the precise frequency of your attention, combined with the biochemical alignment of your cells. Your DNA is waiting like a doorkeeper, responsive only when your internal environment matches the language of expansion. This is why temporary spikes of motivation won't suffice. What the field requires is coherence sustained long enough for the molecular machinery to shift, gene expression to recalibrate, protein folds to reorient, epigenetic switches to flip in service of a new operating system. You have felt hints of this before. A spontaneous insight that rearranged priorities overnight. A sudden cancellation that redirected you to an opportunity you now recognize as providential, or a relationship that ended only to reveal its role as a necessary clearing. Those were preview shots, markers that the field was rehearsing your realignment. The next act is fuller and faster. Think of it as a phase transition where incremental accumulation reaches a threshold. Then everything reorganizes with surprising speed. The pressure you endure now is the system reaching critical mass. Understand the stakes. This window will not remain open indefinitely. The network of coherence has rhythms. There are alignments when the planet's own field supports personal shifts more readily, solar cycles, planetary alignments, collective shifts in consciousness. You are approaching one such alignment, and it amplifies your capacity dramatically. Delay softens that amplification. Hesitation creates micro-decoherence, tiny fractures in your signal that the field reads as uncertainty. When the window is open, timing matters. Your commitment functions like a semaphore. Clear signal, collapse follows. Ambivalence, however noble in intention, blurs the instruction and invites postponement. This is where the promise becomes personal. Your biology will respond. When you sustain coherence, regular breathwork that stabilizes heart rhythm, somatic practices that release trauma held in tissue, micro-declarations that program attention, your cells begin to sing a different song. Telomeres, hormonal cascades, mitochondrial output, neural plasticity, they all respond to the frequency you maintain. The language of your body is electrical and chemical, and when you broadcast alignment, biochemical cascades follow. Suddenly, the formerly dormant pathways in your DNA loosen like vines after rain, revealing sequences that had been masked by survival programming. Old limitations dissolve because the cellular environment has changed. Scarcity no longer finds a hospitable terrain to root in. There is urgency because this burst of cellular receptivity can be leveraged or lost. Imagine a narrow tide that lifts all boats for a few hours. If you are not aboard, someone else will ride that lift. This is not a scarcity plea, it is a tactical observation. The field will move through and keep moving. It does not wait for exhaustive readiness, it rewards decisive alignment. When you choose to act fully, with integrity, with the breath anchored and the heart coherent, you are effectively booking your passage during a tide that supports radical reconfiguration. Do not mistake this for reckless speed. The breakthrough prefers precision over haste. It asks for radical clarity. Choose one focal point, one domain, where you will accept nothing less than a new expression. Health, relationship, vocation, lineage, healing. Make it audacious enough to require a genuine system shift, and small enough that you can repeatedly embody it without collapse. Then, place your attention there like a laser. The field loves specificity. It collapses probabilities more readily when your observer's intention leaves no ambiguity. You will notice acceleration. Insights that previously took months will arrive in a single dawn. Relationships that needed a lifetime of repair will either realign quickly or peel away without drama. Financial channels will begin to rewiring in ways that feel like, how did that happen? This is the biology answering the call, mitochondria humming, hormones harmonizing, neural nets reorganizing. Your subjective experience will change. Gravity around old fears lightens. Time regains elastic generosity. Your choices feel less like effort and more like natural alignment. There is also a social dimension to this urgency. Your shift creates a gradient in the field that other systems, people, projects, movements will sense. Some will be activated by proximity and resonance. Others will be provoked into reaction. Expect both. Let the reactions be data, not verdicts. The field will test your new form. Resist the temptation to prove to everyone that you've changed. Your obligation is to the fidelity of your signal, not to external validation. Now, commit this to the tissue of your being. The breakthrough is accessible, but transient. It becomes permanent only when your inner architecture reconfigures to host it. That requires practice, discipline, and devotion to coherence. The cosmic window is offering momentum. Your task is to translate momentum into structure. Anchor the practices that keep your heart and nervous system steady. Choose one audacious intention and embody it consistently. Let your breath be the metronome that keeps you synchronized with the field. The pressure you feel is not a threat. It is invitation. It asks, will you meet the timing with the seriousness it deserves? If you do, your DNA will remember a frequency it once held at birth. If you do, your life will not whisper hints any longer. It will begin to sing its new arrangement aloud. The window waits. The network leans in. Your next choice matters more than any before it. This is where thought alone is no longer enough. The field has listened to your intentions, felt your frustrations, tracked your coherence, but now it waits for a signature. Every quantum contract requires a seal, a conscious act that communicates unmistakably, yes, I accept the reconfiguration. Without it, the probability cloud remains uncollapsed, potential flickering on the edge of embodiment. With it, timelines snap into alignment like a constellation resolving into clarity. The ancients understood this. They carved symbols into stone, chanted mantras, whispered prayers into fire, not because the stone, the chant, or the flame had inherent power, but because ritual is how consciousness leaves fingerprints in the morphic field. It is how the invisible becomes irreversible. And now, the ritual being asked of you is astonishingly simple. an act of word, breath, and digital presence. Write it, type it, speak it aloud, comment with the word or phrase that names who you are becoming, not who you were, not who you're hoping to be someday, who you are now choosing to embody. When you articulate that word, you are not sending it into empty space. You are inscribing it into the network itself. Every declaration becomes a data point in the field, strengthening coherence across the grid of awakening. Perhaps your word is freedom. Perhaps it is abundance. Perhaps it is coherence, awakening, trust, radiance. The word does not matter as much as the energy behind it. Feel into your body before you choose. Notice the word that lights up your spine, that brings a shimmer behind your eyes, that steadies your breath as though your lungs already recognize it. That word is your signal. That word is your ritual. When you write it, let yourself pause. Feel the subtle shift as if reality takes a photograph of your declaration. Sense the tiny tremor in the fabric of time as the field acknowledges receipt. If you pay close attention, you might even notice synchronicities arriving within hours, messages, encounters, numbers aligning as if the universe rushes to confirm, "We heard you." The beauty of ritual is that it multiplies when shared. Every other consciousness watching, breathing, declaring alongside you becomes entangled with your act. Your word is no longer solitary, it reverberates in a chorus. Imagine dozens, hundreds, thousands of people sealing their shift in the same moment, their declarations weaving into a lattice of light that circles the planet. This is not fantasy, it is morphic resonance in action. Rupert Sheldrake described how once a pattern is established, it becomes easier for others to replicate it. Your ritual strengthens the path for others. Their ritual strengthens it for you. But don't underestimate the intimacy of this action. It may feel small, like typing a comment or whispering a word, but the field responds not to scale, but to sincerity. A single coherent signal outweighs 1,000 fragmented ones. Your word is a seed. Plant it carefully, water it with presence, protect it from doubt. To deepen the seal, embody the word in micro-actions today. If your word is freedom, choose one moment to act without fear's permission. If your word is abundance, give something attention, kindness, resources, without expecting return. If your word is trust, release one worry you've been clutching and breathe as though the outcome is already certain. These micro-acts are not symbolic, they are biochemical instructions. They tell your nervous system, "This is who I am now." They anchor the declaration into tissue and blood. And notice, as you do this, resistance may appear. A voice in your mind might whisper, "It's just a comment. It's just a word. What difference could it make?" That voice is the loop protesting its own collapse. It knows that once you seal the shift, it loses authority. Do not argue with it. Do not fight it. Simply act anyway. The ritual bypasses argument. Action collapses probability faster than thought. Take this seriously. Your seal is not just for you. Every act of coherence strengthens the global network of awakening. When you comment, when you declare, when you live the word, you are not whispering into a void. You are feeding a lattice that will support countless others in moments of doubt. The morphic field records your fidelity. Your ritual becomes a reference point, a line of code others can access unconsciously. So pause now, breathe deeply, place your hand on your chest if it helps. Feel your heart's rhythm syncing with the pulse of the larger field. Let the word rise, not forced, not chosen by logic, but summoned by resonance. Speak it, write it, seal it. This is the hinge. This is the signature the cosmos has been waiting for. And as the word leaves you, trust that it doesn't end at the edge of your lips or the screen in front of you. It travels, it weaves, it embeds itself in the luminous architecture of reality. You are no longer thinking about change, you are initiating it. You have sealed the shift. When you steady yourself into coherence, you do more than rearrange your personal life, you ripple the field. Imagine dropping a stone into a vast, still lake. The center where the stone struck is your life, but the rings that expand outward are systems, relationships, families, communities, entire languages of possibility that begin to hum at a new pitch. Your liberation is not private, it is a broadcast. Every time you free a pattern, you loosen a knot in the collective tapestry, making room for others to breathe differently, to make different choices, to remember a possibility that had been obscured. This is how culture evolves, not primarily through lectures or manifestos, but through lived coherence. One person moves differently, calmer, clearer, kinder, and others unconsciously mirror that vibration. Mirror neurons and morphic resonance conspire together. The field notices and begins to repattern itself around the new cadence. Think of it as a contagion of clarity. Your courage to embody an expanded identity becomes a template that lowers the energetic friction for others. Where there was previously resistance, pathways open. Where there was doubt, a faint track of trust begins to widen. Small acts of fidelity, refusing to gossip, choosing vulnerability, showing up with disciplined love, are contagious in ways that data cannot always measure, but history certainly feels. There is a physics and a poetry to this. In entangled systems, informational changes in one node correlate with changes elsewhere, regardless of distance. When you shift, you alter the probability amplitude of possible futures, not just for yourself, but for the networks you inhabit. Your family lineage gets a new conditional probability. Your workplace recalibrates the types of conversations that will stick. Strangers on the other side of the world catch a fragment of your frequency and find their own courage. These are not mystical platitudes, they are the lived mechanics of an interconnected field that responds to quality of attention. Consider the literal mechanics for a moment. When your nervous system steadies, you stop transmitting alarm. Others pick up fewer cues of danger and can drop their defensive postures. This in turn allows them to access higher cognitive functions, creative problem solving, and compassionate responses. In networks, familial, communal, organizational, this small shift compounds. One steady heart lowers the baseline anxiety of 10, which frees 2 to take risks that benefit 100, which creates a cascade that moves culture forward. Your coherence is contagious because it changes the resource allocation of attention in systems. It reroutes energy away from survival drama toward generative invention. Collective expansion also returns gifts to you. As you stabilize, you attract allies, people whose inner work parallels yours and whose outer contributions amplify your intent. These allies are not always obvious at first. They arrive as chance conversations, as a job offer timed like a lifeline, as a stranger whose single sentence reframes a problem. Because entanglement is mutual, their emergence helps anchor your new form. Your stabilization helps anchor theirs. Networks coalesce around integrity. This is why solitary breakthroughs often feel incomplete until they catalyze communal shifts. The field prefers distributed coherence. It wants systems of aligned nodes more than singular heroes. There will be friction. Long-standing structures resistant to change will react. Systems built on scarcity, control, or fear will test your new frequency. Some people will mirror your growth with curiosity and follow. Others will feel threatened and push back. Expect both. Let the pushback be data, not moral condemnation. Your task is not to convince, but to demonstrate by living differently, speaking less, and embodying more. Over time, layered by repeated acts of integrity, the field will reprioritize what is possible and permissible. What was once abnormal becomes normal. What was once an edge becomes the center. Ritual practices deepen this effect. When you publicly seal an intention by speaking a word, performing a small act of commitment, or aligning with others in synchronous breath, you create a reference point in the morphic field. That reference becomes a categorical instruction the field can use to organize around. These rituals do more than feel good. They create a new baseline for behavior in the network. Others will unconsciously find permission in your permission. They will take risks you made safe. They will start practicing the small habits you modeled. Steadier breath, kinder speech, clearer boundaries. Over time, these micro-practices aggregate into macro shifts. And here is a vital humility. You do not carry the burden of saving anyone. Liberation is not a messianic project. Your role is to be a reliable node. You offer a living example and a path of least resistance. You create scaffolding, not dependency. The field will reorganize in its own wisdom. Your job is fidelity, staying coherent, practicing the rituals that anchor new patterns, and showing up with the humility to be corrected by life. Sometimes the largest contribution is simply to be well. When you are well, you become a tool the field can use. Feel the image now, not a single blazing star, but a constellation of steady lights. Each light is a person choosing practice over panic, clarity over compulsion. As more fixtures hold steady, the night sky of culture brightens. The collective heartbeat slows. Clarity becomes the default mode. Systems that once defended scarcity begin to accept abundance as a viable baseline. Innovation accelerates. Pain becomes a teacher rather than a trap. This is the scale of your impact. Slow, patient, cumulative, unstoppable. So keep the rituals, keep the declarations, keep the micro-acts that prove your word to yourself. Tend your field like a garden weed, water, prune, honoring small cycles of growth. Your liberation is a public good, and the world is quietly waiting for the signal you have already begun to emit. Now, allow this expanded picture to settle in your bones, and notice how your body begins to anticipate the new possibilities it just glimpsed. Feel it now, not as theory, not as abstract encouragement, but as sensation. Your body is the laboratory where the quantum field experiments, the canvas upon which coherence paints its most vivid strokes. Close your eyes for a moment and notice the current moving through you. There's a subtle warmth that wasn't there before, a low hum that vibrates behind your sternum, a pulse that seems to echo beyond your skin. This is what it means to embody the shift. Not a concept, but a texture. Not an idea, but a frequency felt in muscle, breath, bone. Your breath becomes the first instrument of embodiment. Each inhale is not merely oxygen, it is data, intelligence, packets of coherence drawn from the zero-point field. Each exhale is release, the loosening of density, the clearing of static. When you exhale fully, notice the sensation of gravity lightening, as though your spine grows taller without effort. This is no illusion. Electromagnetic coherence in your heart literally synchronizes with the rhythms of the cosmos, creating constructive interference that your nervous system interprets as buoyancy. That buoyancy is the seed of trust. Your skin, too, begins to translate the language of the field. Tiny shivers may ripple down your arms when you hold focus, or goosebumps may rise unbidden when truth resonates. These are not random biological quirks. They are confirmations, micro-voltages, shifting through hair follicles as your bioelectric field registers contact with the greater network. Your body knows when you are aligned. It tells you in tingles, in sudden waves of calm, in the way your hands grow warm as if charged with invisible current. The heart is the primary portal. Place your palm there now. Feel its thrum, steady yet mysterious, beating not only blood but also rhythm into space. Scientists have measured that the electromagnetic field of the heart extends meters beyond the body, interacting with others invisibly. Mystics have always known it as the torch inside the ribcage. When you hold an elevated state, gratitude, awe, compassion, that torch brightens, casting invisible light that others sense before they even speak to you. This is embodiment, walking as a frequency others can feel. Your spine is the antenna. Each vertebra, each nerve root, a node in a ladder of light. When you breathe deeply and let your attention travel upward, you may sense subtle surges, heat coiling at the base, cool tingles rising at the crown. The ancients mapped this as serpent fire, as kundalini, as the staff of Hermes. Modern language might call it biophotonic activation, DNA communicating through liquid crystals in your tissues. Whatever the name, the feeling is unmistakable. Energy, moving, reorganizing, ascending. This is not fantasy, it is physics made intimate. The morphic field sculpting your nervous system into coherence. Your senses sharpen in this state. Sounds carry depth you hadn't noticed. Colors glow with unusual intensity. Even silence feels thick, textured, alive. These sensory enhancements are not hallucinations. They are coherence, granting your nervous system access to subtler frequencies. Think of it as tuning an old radio where static once obscured, clarity now cuts through. Embodiment is the body's way of telling you, you are tuned, you are ready, you are aligned. Sometimes embodiment feels ecstatic, waves of joy, tears welling, laughter bubbling from nowhere. Other times it feels like pressure, chest tight, head buzzing, body restless. Do not resist either. Both are signs of recalibration. Ecstasy is expansion, pressure is rewiring. Your tissues hold memories of fear, trauma, contraction. As they release, you may feel temporary discomfort. This is the chrysalis cracking, the old scaffolding breaking under the weight of the new wings unfurling inside you. Trust the sensations. They are evidence of the upgrade. Notice also the gravity shift. Old problems that once felt crushing now feel strangely less heavy. That's not delusion. That's coherence, reorganizing your perception. When your nervous system stabilizes, the same external challenge interacts with you differently. You are less reactive, more centered, more spacious. Embodiment is the field proving itself through felt resilience. Take a moment now. Breathe slow. Imagine every inhale drawing photons into your cells, igniting them like lanterns. Every exhale releases static, loops, outdated codes. As you continue, you may feel subtle expansion at the edges of your body, as though your skin no longer marks the boundary of who you are. This is not metaphor, it is your biofield extending, the signature of embodied coherence. Remember, embodiment is the ritual beyond ritual. It is not only about the word you typed, the declaration you made. It is about living the word through sensation, anchoring it into your tissue until your very posture, your very presence, declares it wordlessly. Walk into a room with your new frequency, and people will feel it before you speak. That is the power of embodiment. That is how the shift becomes irreversible. And in the next breath, something deeper begins. Your DNA awakening to its own memory, preparing to initiate the breakthrough you have been sensing all along. You've been carrying a pressure that felt unbearable because something inside you was finishing its rehearsal. Now the rehearsal ends and the system prepares to execute. What you're experiencing is more than metaphorical. It's the biological mechanics of a timeline shift. Think of your body as a quantum instrument whose strings have been tightened for years. The tension has been necessary. It preserved survival. But tension also stores potential energy. When the right note is struck, when coherence, intention, and ritual meet, the knot unravels, and the stored energy releases as transformation. This is your DNA, waking to its deeper code. At the cellular level, your body has been responding to your attention the whole time, switching gene expression on and off, adjusting hormonal cascades, tuning neural pathways. But now those changes accelerate because the system approaches a critical threshold, a phase transition. In physics, a phase transition is where a system jumps from one state to another, liquid to gas, disorder to order. Once energy reaches a specific tipping point, your consciousness has been feeding that energy. Your repeated practices, declarations, and microactions are cumulative charges. They build coherence until the probability landscape can no longer maintain the old configuration. The old timeline begins to dissolve, and a new arrangement becomes the path of least resistance. Feel the pressure as a living thing. It often shows up where old stories lodged in the gut that recoils from intimacy, in the throat that clamps against truth, in the chest that holds grief. These are not obstacles to be fought, they are physics. The body is reorganizing its molecular scaffolding to make room for new expression. Enzymes shift, methylation patterns recalibrate, neural nets prune away pathways that no longer serve. The experience can be confusing. Sudden fatigue, waves of unbidden emotion, strange dreams that feel more real than waking life. These are the signatures of phase change. They are evidence that the system is dissolving old order to permit emergence. Your DNA is not merely a static blueprint, it is a responsive antenna. As your field coheres, sequences that were dormant become accessible. Imagine a library where most books are sealed. Coherence is the librarian's key. It opens previously locked stacks. When you sustain the frequency long enough, hidden instructions, biochemical potentials, predispositions toward resilience, latent cognitive architectures become available. These are not magic tricks. They are epigenetic and bioelectrical phenomena responding to sustained changes in your internal environment. The result is that capacities you once read about in spiritual texts become practical functions in your life. Timing matters. A realignment of this depth is catalyzed by synchronized windows, moments when planetary, social, and personal fields briefly align, amplifying the effect of your intention. When that happens, the morphic field acts like a sympathetic stringed instrument. One tuned note, your coherent signal, resonates through the network, and entire patterns shift in sympathy. You may notice rapid manifestations, conversations that reroute your career, people appearing who mirror your new frequency, decisions landing into place without the strain that used to accompany them. These are not flukes. They are the energetic feedback of a timeline collapsing into your preferred coordinate system. Expect paradox. The pressure that precedes breakthrough often looks like regression. Old wounds may surface with raw intensity. Relationships you thought healed may demand renegotiation. The world may test the durability of your new shape by reintroducing familiar temptations. These are the system's quality checks. Phase transitions require proof of readiness. How you hold through the turbulence, they are minor storms compared to the ocean you're crossing signals. Whether the new structure will stabilize or snap back. The wise posture is not resistance but witness. Feel the content of the pressure, validate it, and choose coherence again and again. Biologically, stabilization follows repetition. Each time you return to coherent practice, each breath that centers you, each micro-action that proves your declaration, you strengthen the new neural pathways and biochemical set points. Habits harden into hardware. The breakthrough becomes not an isolated event, but a new operating system. Your subjective sense of identity widens. Where once you felt tethered to a narrow narrative, you now inhabit a broader story with different default responses, new appetites, and more elastic time. This expansion is relational as well. As your cellular field reconfigures, your relational field shifts in sympathy. People who resonate with your new frequency will be drawn in. Those who don't may drift away. This is not loss in the moral sense. It is pruning. The morphic field trades density for coherence. You may grieve, and grieving is part of the refinement. It clears space for relationships that can hold your new bandwidth. Trust that this attrition is part of a larger intelligence, reorganizing for compatibility rather than catastrophe. Now is the time to become precise with practice. The phase transition rewards fidelity more than fervor. Return again and again to the rituals that anchor you. Slow breath cycles that stabilize heart coherence, micro-meditations that reset the autonomic nervous system, intentional movement that circulates newly released charges through tissue. Protect your attention, reduce noise that fragments the signal, Choose one audacious but specific intention, and let it be the organizing principle for small daily acts. The body will follow where attention goes. You are not becoming someone else. You are remembering a fuller expression of you that the narrower timeline had suppressed. The DNA breakthrough is a retrieval of capacities already encoded in your being: resilience, intuition, regenerative health, creative embodiment. When the system stabilizes, you will experience life with a different internal gravity. Choices feel easier, presence becomes more accessible, and the cadence of synchronicity becomes familiar rather than startling. Listen to the subtle confirmations: unexpected clarity in morning dreams, a sudden easing of a chronic symptom, a conversation that redirects a project instantly. Each one is a note in the rising symphony of your new timeline. Allow wonder to accompany you. This is not mere improvement, it is metamorphosis. Phase transitions are dramatic in their cumulative simplicity. Sustained coherence produces irreversible change. As your DNA remembers, the field adjusts, and the timeline you have been coaxing into being begins to occupy space with increasing certainty. The next part of your work is to carry this new script outward into choices, speech, and service, so that the emergent pattern becomes durable, not only inside you, but across the networks you touch. Prepare now, because the final movement, the prophetic integration and mission that your shift was always meant to serve, is approaching. You've crossed the threshold. The pressure that once felt unbearable has revealed itself as birth. The loops you carried for years were never proof of failure, they were gestation, the contractions before emergence. And now, with your DNA humming at a frequency you once only glimpsed in dream, you stand at the seam between timelines. This seam is not private, it is collective. Your shift was never only for you. It is a filament in the circuitry of humanity, a spark in the greater grid of awakening. Feel this truth settle in your bones. Your coherence is not simply personal healing, it is planetary contribution. Each breath you take in trust steadies the atmosphere for others. Each act of fidelity sends ripples through the morphic field, loosening old codes of fear, scarcity, and separation. The liberation you've tasted in your own chest becomes architecture for others to inhabit. As you embody a higher rhythm, countless unseen hearts entrain to it without even knowing your name. This is how the lattice of consciousness evolves, not through singular heroics, but through millions of luminous adjustments, each person remembering, each breath becoming a hinge between worlds. The cosmic mission before you is deceptively simple. Live as proof. Let your biology be the demonstration that coherence rewrites probability. Walk as the evidence that love reorganizes matter. Speak as the reminder that clarity ripples faster than chaos. In ordinary rooms, in quiet moments, in the subtle choreography of daily life, you are the broadcast. And because frequency travels faster than words, your presence will teach more than your explanations ever could. But know this: your role is also prophetic. You are not merely adapting to what is, you are embodying what is becoming. You are living from a future that is pulling itself through you into the present. The timeline you stabilized is not an endpoint, it is a signal flare, a beacon that says, this way. Others will see it, others will feel it, many will follow without fully understanding why, guided by the resonance you anchored. Your mission is to remember that resistance is not regression, it is rehearsal. That chaos in the field is not collapse, it is reordering. That every time you embody coherence, when the old world demands panic, you accelerate the emergence of a new order. You have become a hinge in history, a point of leverage where infinite possibilities narrow into a single, undeniable reality. Humanity, awakening to itself as a conscious co-creator with the cosmos. Pause and breathe this in. The mission is not elsewhere, not in some grand stage waiting for you. It is here, in this breath, in this conversation, In this moment, where your nervous system steadies and the field listens. Every time you choose coherence, you reinforce the scaffolding of a civilization, learning to outgrow its fear. Every time you choose trust, you participate in the greatest project the cosmos has ever staged, the evolution of consciousness into coherence at scale. And so we close with a truth that is both intimate and infinite. Your shift is humanity's shift. Your liberation is the planet's liberation. The morphic field is already recording your fidelity, already amplifying your signal. You are no longer waiting for destiny, you are embodying it. This is why you found this message, why you could not scroll past, why your body leaned in with that subtle shiver of recognition. The field has chosen its moment. You are standing inside it now. Remember, you are not merely the observer of the quantum field, you are the field, awake to itself, breathing, speaking, reorganizing matter with every choice. And from this day forward, as you carry your coherence into the world, know this: the Morphic Field Network is no longer a secret frequency. It is you. It is alive in your breath, in your DNA, in your radiant presence. Your consciousness has unlocked the network. Humanity is already shifting, and the future is listening.